I've been in manufacturing basically since I was 11 years old. From an immigrant family. My dad is from Germany, he's a tool and die maker. And I grew up in a shop. So I'm going to try to share some of those experiences that I've had with you and see if we can go on this journey together. So let's get started. So one of my favorite movies is A Few Good Men. So remember, Tom Cruise is grilling Jack Nicholson on the stage. Jack Nicholson plays a colonel, and he says, "I want the truth." And Jack Nicholson says, "You want the truth?" And Tom says, "Yes, I want the truth." And Jack Nicholson says, "You can't handle the truth." Well, this is going to be what our journey is going to be about today, is about the truth. So let's start off with my favorite subject. I'm not going to use a lot of slides because there's going to be people in the back that can't see it, so it's going to be irrelevant. So one of my favorite topics is the skills gap. It's something that we've all faced over the last 5 to 10 years, and it's going to become worse. Does everybody know what the skills gap, what it means? So the skills gap basically means is the amount of skilled employees and the demand for them. There's going to be less skilled employees and increased demand. And there isn't going to be enough people to fulfill that demand. So many businesses have not addressed this for whatever reason. You know, we've gone through the traditional routes of newspaper, Monster.com, all these things, and we're not finding anything. It's almost equivalent to you all went fishing in that small 1-acre pond and tried to catch a fish. The likelihood of you catching a fish is not there. Now, I think it can be overcome, but we're going to have a little bit of a discussion about that. So, as of last Saturday, the Toronto Maple Leafs got the first draft choice. What did they have to do that? They had to make some sacrifices to their team and take it in, and then lose quite badly. You know, it wasn't really nice. But the #1 draft choice is the most coveted thing in sport. It's also what made the fast food industry really successful. It's like the first job that everyone had was McDonald's. Okay? And McDonald's gave them a job, took a risk on them. They vetted through a whole pile of people, and they picked the best. And they nurtured and trained them. And that's how they became a successful corporation. We don't seem to employ that in our industry. We're looking for experience. Well, with less and less experience, we're not gonna find anyone. So we need to start training people. So, I mean, how do you feel about the fact that every one of your employees has been vetted by McDonald's or a fast food franchise, and they picked the best and you got the second choice? Doesn't feel really good, does it? But there's a lot of young, bright minds out there that you could really, really do something with, and through your support, they can grow and make your company successful, just like McDonald's. So, I know there's a lot of arguments against that. The first argument is, well, I'm going to train them and they're going to leave, right? Isn't that an argument? Well, what does that mean? That means you're a crappy employer? You know, because you're fulfilling your own destiny by believing in that. They will leave. If you always fulfill your own destiny. So you have to go in this with an extremely positive attitude and start getting apprentices. You know, go to the school district. I remember we had a tour from the Delta School District, and this young gentleman, after the end of the tour, came up to me, looked me in the eye, and said, "I'll be back." He wasn't Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he was a little skinny, long hair, right? So, like I say, it's really, really important that you take that in consideration. Now, the other thing you need to take into consideration is this. So, these young people come to you, or your prospective employees come to you, and they've got an iPhone, an iPad, they're LinkedIn, they're in a social network, they're quite savvy. And they walk into your shop or into your business, and it looks like It was generated in 1950. And what are they going to say? You can't pay me enough to work here, man. Really. You can't pay me enough. So they want to see a business that they can grow with, not a business they can die with. Okay? Anyways, so I'm a firm believer in the skills gap. Get yourself a bunch of apprentices. If everybody does it, we can overcome the skills gap, because I know our government doesn't know how to do it. Okay? We elect teachers, doctors, dentists, whatever, lawyers. What do they know about business? You guys know more about business than they do. And you know how government works. You're not going to get the support that you really, really need, because they don't know what to do. They're only going to follow. If you create that demand, they might wake up and support you. So let's talk about the economy. When I got involved in the business the second time around in '86, you know, there was very, very little manufacturing here. It was all based on some agriculture, probably more in the prairies, mining, forestry, and we had that province right next to us that was in oil. Oil was like gold. It was the gold rush. And it pumped a lot of money into our Western Canadian economy. Now, with that being said, what's happened today? How many people have felt the decrease in the price of oil? Lots of you. Lots of you. Some people have already gone out of business. So who thinks that oil's coming back anytime soon? God, I want somebody to raise their hand. I got a condominium I want to sell them. Oil is not coming back anytime soon. If OPEC cuts back, the United States is going to gear right back up again, because low oil is good for the United States. So what's good for the United States has got to be good for us. So what are we going to do? Well, we can go all hide under our desk, you know, buy a lottery ticket, hide under the desk, and see if we win. Or one day, there'll be a knock on the door, and a guy with a little white paper will go, "Mr. Jahn, how nice. Please step outside your building," as he locks the door behind you. So are those our choices? Well, some people think it is. Some people think this is going to blow off like anytime soon. It's sort of like waiting for the government to do something. Hold your breath long enough, you might die. But fortunately, there is a good side. Because of the low price of oil, manufacturing is flourishing all over the world. The United States and Europe are reshoring. And we can take advantage of that. But what we have to do is we have to become globally competitive. Now, the Conference Board of Canada keeps slapping us in the face every year and says that we are the most unproductive country in the world. You know, I love those guys. There's probably two guys in a suit from Toronto, you know, sitting in a room going, "So what do you think?" as he throws a piece of paper in the garbage can. Who are we going to rile up this week? You know? But with this reshoring, I think we can be globally competitive. So there is a lot of business out there to be had, but we got to get out from underneath our desks and start doing the right things so we can become competitive. So let's talk about the future of manufacturing. What are we going to do? My favorite topic, automation. Now, I was going to ask who bought a 3-axis mill and a 2-axis lathe last year, but I'm not going to embarrass you. If you bought a 3-axis mill and a 2-axis lathe and the guy that sold it to you, he probably thought you were a museum. Okay? That's 1980s technology. Okay? That's something that I would have bought in 1986. So, over 30 years ago. And we're still buying the same thing today. My kids would be ashamed of me to buy something like that. That's like showing up with your flip phone. And they're going, "Dad, what are you doing? You're embarrassing me in front of people. But yet we in manufacturing are still buying the same thing. So you're either a museum or you're an artisan, because that's in these days, you know, like a blacksmith, you know? So those machines you can put right beside the Gutenberg press, and when we can start that museum up, all right? Because I've been in, not machine shops, I've been in a few museums, okay? So what we really need to do is look at what's going to make us productive. We can't compete man for man with Asia. That's impossible. Their wage structure is lower, it's just not going to happen. So I believe the key is automation. If your vendor is selling you 3-axis mills and 2-axis lathes, and you're buying into that, get rid of your vendor, okay? Because they don't know anything. The next thing is, if they talk automation, show me. Because there's a lot of people that can do a lot of this. I think when I go into some shops that have automation, I must have an EMP pulse, okay? That destroys the electronics, because I don't see it working. Oh, it was working a couple of minutes ago. So that works the first time I walk into a shop, but it doesn't work the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh time. It's unbelievable. Yeah, Mr. Jahn, we're going to put a robot in front of your machine. It's going to make you rich. Yeah, right. I got that condo still I want to sell. So the thing about automation is you want to run unattended. You want your parts, you want your facility to be as productive as possible. You want to be able to capture those hours, those overnight hours where we're basically free. Okay? That's going to make you competitive. That's what our sawmill industry did many, many years ago. What happened when they put a tariff on the price of lumber? Well, what did they do? They cranked it right up. They went to 3 shifts, 7 days a week. They got their overhead costs down. They were more than competitive to deal with that tariff. So, I mean, I think we're a little more sophisticated than the sawmill industry, don't you think? So what you need to look at is multi-axis equipment, automated handling systems, software that talks the right talk. Let me just digress for a second. Software. You know, I bought a lot of software, and I'd probably change it like I'd probably change my shorts, because none of it's really working. I found that it's not how expensive it is how well it works for you. So when you buy software, buy it something that works for you, not what some guys hyped you up to buy. But when I talk about automation, there's 2 philosophies of automation. So there's the first one where I'm going to take the Asian approach. We're going to replace all you people with robots. That kind of works, but it's like your laptop. It's technology that's frozen in time. Okay? If it does a part in 10 minutes, today it's going to do a part in 10 minutes in 5 years. The second philosophy is we want to use automation as an extension of our employees. We want to give our employees the tools to compete globally. Okay? That's like taking some poor guy with a shovel and giving him a backhoe. Okay? They dig a lot faster with a backhoe than they do with a shovel, I can tell you that. So, getting to the supplier part, there's a real big problem with automation in Western Canada is because we don't have enough vendors and suppliers that supply it. And if they do, they're like that IT guy I had once that, I've worked on a computer, and he's going to he's going to hack to death my server, and I'm going to be in bigger trouble than when I started, okay? I've gone into shops that have robots in them that are not functioning. It was a good deal. Yeah, good deals you don't believe good deals. But what we need is our vendors getting better. Our vendors who are futurizing what they want Western Canada look like. And coach us. Okay? We need leadership too. okay? And if they're not invested in it, don't invest in them. Go find yourself a company that will do it for you. It's going to be a little more expensive, but in the long term, you're going to have less headaches. Okay, my next thing. How many people have a CMM? How many people don't have a CMM? Don't raise your hand. CMMs are great, but technology is moving on. What we're seeing today is laser scanners attached to software systems that are going to measure your parts and compare it to a solid model and give you that instant feedback. That's where the technology is going. And that's what's going to make us more productive. CMMs are great, don't get me wrong. They have their place. But if you want to be globally competitive, you need to make sure that you can measure your parts instantaneously and make sure they're right. Because there's nothing worse than delivering a poor quality part. You know, what is that saying? I won't forget the quality, but I will forget the price. So you need to be investing in those type of technologies that are going to allow you to measure faster, quicker, and that. And when I talk about the scanning, I mean, remember many years ago they used a red light laser. And that wasn't really good because we made a lot of aluminum parts. It was really reflective. It wasn't very accurate. But the new blue light lasers are working just awesomely, okay? They just need to be a little more automated. But that's coming, and you need to be looking at that type of technology as you want to become globally competitive. Okay. IoT, Internet of Things. How many people have a Nest? Do you know what a Nest is? It's a connected thermostat. I can go open up my app, and I know what temperature is in my house. I can manipulate the temperature, okay? It's also hooked up to the internet and to my smoke detector. So if my smoke detector goes off, my furnace won't boot up. Why is that? Because furnaces booting up in fire is not a really good situation. So they're connected. So the Internet of Things means is we are going to have sensors that we're going to allow us to monitor our equipment. It's not how hard our people work, it's what they produce and how effectively our equipment is working. Okay? These sensors are becoming cheap. Walmart uses them to track the inventory in their buildings. They put a little chip on that package, which is pennies, and they can scan their warehouse and know exactly what's in it. How would you like to know when your machine is about to break down? How would you like to know on an active basis how many parts you're making per hour now? Not at the end of the day. Right now, our ERP systems, or our enterprise resource systems, are based on labor. It's only as good as the data put into it, okay? And how many of you have found out at the end of their job that they've lost money? Probably a few of you. Okay. How'd you like to know if you're losing money right now so you could do something about it? Not that the repo guy shows up in a couple of months because you've been making a lot of very cheap parts and you're losing money at it. So the Internet of Things allows us to be connected. So we can create a dashboard on how our businesses are running. Now, does anybody have a car with a black windshield in the front so they can't see out of it? I don't think that's conducive to living. And the same thing is going to be in our businesses. Or, how'd you like the police officer to tell you that you were speeding? And you didn't know how fast you were going because you don't have a speedometer. These are all essential elements, and this is what the IoT is going to do for us. It's going to give us that ability to see what we're doing on a current basis. Not let our accountant come in at the end of the month and say, Udo, we lost our ass. And I'm going to go, oh man. So it's really, really important that we know now, because this is what's going to make us competitive, because these are going to be the tools that allow us to see and tweak those things in our business that will make us competitive, okay? I didn't even need this paperwork. All right. 3D printing. How many people heard about 3D printing? Okay. How many people think they need to go into 3D printing? Okay. You know, I've been asked this question a lot of times. I have a background in zoology. I took some nuclear medicine. So, you know, the printing tissue, that's important. But 3D printing is going to come at some of our industries. Not all of them, but it will come. Now, they're doing metals, they're doing plastics, tissue, they're printing food. I don't know what the relevance of printing food is, but you know, they do it. It's just a new gimmick to get you in a restaurant or whatever. But the issue with 3D printing is that it's getting into 3D printing right now is like jumping on a 747 that's just about to launch on the runway. Nothing good is going to happen. Because there are a lot of things that are going to prevent us from getting into 3D printing. The first thing is, the technology is moving so fast that what you bought today was thought about last year and it's already obsolete tomorrow. Okay? It's just moving that quickly. So, you know, if you think I'm going to buy a 3D printer and I've cornered the market, I'm going to take you on, it ain't going to happen. 3D printing also requires special materials. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I went to Boeing and said, listen, I substitute that aluminum that you put on my specification, yeah, that's not going to happen. So unless you're the manufacturer, you don't have any control of that. So it's probably not the right time to get in. The other problem with 3D printing is it's called additive manufacturing. And everything we do currently is called subtractive manufacturing. And all our measuring tools are subtractive measuring tools. Now, if I printed a void in the middle of that projector and I tried to measure it, the only way I could do that is to cut it in half. Well, that's a useless part. So what do I do with the second part? How do I qualify that? I cut it in half again. Well, that's not going to, so I guess I'm not going to be very productive. So you need to invest in 3D measuring tools. Now, what's a 3D measuring tool? Well, there are some tools available at extremely high price that you can X-ray a part. And you can see what the dimensions are in that part. And you'll be able to measure those voids. But I don't know about you, but if you bought a $750,000 3D metal printer and you had to pay $750,000 for the measuring tool, that's $1.5 million in investment. So, but those measuring tools will get cheaper, but just not today. The other problem with 3D printing, especially in metals, is they take a solid and they grind it up. So all the particles need to be the same size. So if they're not the same size, you're going to have some problems. The other issue is it comes in a sack. Okay, it doesn't come, you know, you got to drag a sack around, and it's easier to drag a bar of material than it is to drag a sack of material. And besides that, there's a huge, the grains are exposed to more oxygen and are more likely to rust or to oxidize. So you've got to have special containment for your materials, and it's going to be very expensive. So that's another downside. The other thing is that the engineering knowledge that we've built over 100 years is not relevant anymore when it comes to 3D printing, because we can basically print our imagination. But it's going to take, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not getting in a 3D printed plane anytime soon. Okay? I don't care what they say. Maybe if it's in the air handling equipment, okay? So, you know, because I don't know, if you put that in a strut and you hit the runway like the airplane that I was on last night, Yeah, I wouldn't feel too safe about that. But they're going to engineer it. But it's going to take some time to gain the experience to make sure that works. So there is a lot of hype about 3D printing, and I think, you know, it's like any sales guy that walks into your facilities and tries to sell you something. It's the latest, greatest. It'll do everything. It'll vacuum your carpet. It'll make coffee. It does whatever. You might even create your cup of coffee, you know, but it might be a little early to invest, okay? But it's getting there. There are industries that it's going to affect almost immediately. One of them is the mold making industry, because the mold making industry makes some fairly complex parts with some fairly tough materials. This is going to help. Now, if you're a pattern maker for a foundry, I'm telling you, you're gone. You know, writing's on the wall. 3D printing is going to take that kind of stuff away. If you're making implants for teeth, that's done too. So there are industries that will be affected, and you need to be very aware of the industries that it will take over. But I think in the long term, there's going to be sort of a level where it gets to, because it's going to take a long time to mass produce parts with 3D printing, okay? If you're in the one-of business, it's coming for you. So just be aware. So, what do you want to take away from this? What are you going to do when you walk away today? The number one thing is I think you should be doing is you should start investing in apprenticeships. You don't have a choice. You absolutely don't have a choice. Because there will not be enough skilled labor out there. And manufacturing and the competitive manufacturing will not allow you to pay fortunes for your labor. So you need to invest. That's why look at the sports franchises. Why do you think they have a healthy mix of young players? Because they have a salary cap. There's only so much they can charge for their product, you know? And young people bring a new level of innovation to your business. They're bright. They haven't done this before. They've got suggestions that are out of the box that may help you be more competitive in the future. Invest in automation. I'm going to make a prediction. If you don't invest in automation, sell your business today. Really, sell your business today. You're going to get something for it today. In 10 years, you're going to get squat. You don't have a choice. Okay? In 10 years, it'll be over 40 years old, the way you've been doing stuff. So, I don't know about you, but Steve Jobs changed the expectations of the world. It's changing every day. And you need to invest ahead to stay on top of it. I had to put this one in. I need you to demand high-tech qualified solutions from your vendors. You need to challenge your vendors. If you ask them what speed you should be running that tool and they don't know, the door is this way. If they're not prompting you to get into automation, there's the door. You know, I'm from the show me state, I guess. Show me what you've done. And maybe you might have that same EMP pulse that I have. You walk into the facility and it's not working. It's pretty bad. There's some pretty loose installations out there that shouldn't be there. But you need to demand this, and you need to do business with those organizations that are trying to be globally competitive just like you and know what they're talking about. Okay? I mean, if they're coming into your shop and they don't know, you might as well buy your stuff on the internet. Okay? If you're not getting service from your suppliers, don't buy from them, because you could probably get it cheaper on the internet, maybe Amazon and eBay. Be aware of the technologies that are going to hurt you. Don't put your head in the sand, like 3D printing. There's other technologies that are coming, okay? You need to be well-read. You need to get your head out of your business and be on top of your business, okay? You need to futurize your business. Where are we going to go in the future? And don't follow, lead, okay? The object of every business is to be the last man or woman flushed. That's your objective. Because if you're the first one flushed, well, too bad. So, embrace the truth. Embracing the truth means that you should not be under your desk waiting for something to come, okay? And I don't know about you, but I don't think I'm winning the lottery anytime soon. I think I got to create my own. I'm going to invest in equipment. That's what we've been doing at Modern Engineering. We've been investing in equipment. We've been investing because we have to, because we want to be around. We don't want to be the last man flushed. We have to start innovating our companies. You know, not just sitting there and taking whatever is given to us. We need to innovate. Innovation is the key. If you got 1% or 0.5% better every day, think about what would happen at the end of the year. But you got to start right now. This is like when I go to the gym. Man, I hate getting out that door. Oh, you know. But once I'm there, I'm okay. It's the same thing in our businesses. We got to get out that door. We've got to make that effort because we don't have a choice. Like I said, you know, if you don't, in 10 years you won't be here. There'll be a totally different audience. Anyways, thank you. Good question. You're right. There are places for 3D printing, but for example, if you're just a machine shop that's not in control of product, if you're a manufacturer, that's a totally different story. So companies like GE have heavily invested in 3D printing. They've just recently opened a very big facility down south. But for the mainstream machine shop, there isn't really any demand for it right now, and the technology is still fairly young. I have a 3D printer. We do plastic printing, but that was because of my curiosity. I also have the latest iPad. So it's about what are you going to make money with? Okay, like I said, there's a lot of things working against the local shops. You're not in control of the materials. Okay, so you can't substitute materials for production. Basically it. There's still a lot of things working against you. Now, is it coming? Totally. It's totally coming. But right now it's really specialized. But one of the things they assume about 3D printing is subtractive manufacturing is going to lay down and die. And that's not going to happen either, right? So there is going to become a balance. Now, which industries and where this is all going to fall out, we don't know. But the problem is, in many cases, there's a lot of hype. And for us regular people, there's no demand for it right now, so it's best to just sit on the sidelines and wait. Because I don't know about you, but if I bought the same printer that he bought, how am I going to be competitive? So what do? We cut rates until we hit the ground? I don't know. But if you're a manufacturer and you want to make a rapid prototype, for sure. If you're in the prototyping business, it's going to kill you. And I don't know if buying a 3D printer is going to help you because the manufacturer buys their own.